Will he find his manhood or will he not? The conclusion of the night and the parking lot.
The knight strode up to that big, mighty door. He took his sword and he rapped on the front of it.
Clang! Clang! Clang!
The mighty doors remain solid.
He took his shield and thrust it out the door.
But the mighty doors remain solid.
You two, perhaps whoever is inside will hear if you play your sweet music.
Okay.
Gladly.
A 1 and a 2 and a 3. Ah, yes. Thank you for all the ruckus. For as you know, there is a little bell here.
I did not say it.
How may I be of assistance today?
You there! I understand you are the one who impounded my mother's carriage. I have come to take it back.
Ah, yes. Yes, I recognize you. You have the Kronda carriage, is that not it?
That is my carriage.
I am sorry, for it was placed in a untimely matter, and it has now belonged to myself.
The man was very intimidating. Why, the knight could feel something happening with his sword.
The sword quivered and shaked, and slowly, slightly began to rust and crumple.
Ah, yes, for you see, the decree has been said by the king that anyone who hath placed their carriage more than a fortnight, the carriage shall be impounded, and a curse shall be brought upon that who enters the realm.
A curse! He's not really a minion of the king. He's really the witch's minion.
That is correct! I am the witch's minion!
Why, something started to happen with the shield!
The shield began to tarnish and decay and was once more a useless object covered in vomit and pee.
He's no parking knight, he's just a meter maid. Kill him!
Kill him!
Kill the meter maid! Nobody likes them!
You took off. Only a true man can kill me, can be worthy of the carriage. Only a true man with courage, and I yet see no such man before me.
The knight looked to his rusted sword and his tarnished shield, and suddenly tears started flowing out of his eyes.
Don't worry, my lord. I shall save you. And without the flautist, thrust himself at the knight. But since he was just a musician, he fainted and died.
The tears from the knight splashed on the shield and the sword, and suddenly something magical happened. Not only did they become shiny and silver again, but they were stronger and more powerful than ever.
The knight summoned his courage, and he thrust his sword at the man.
But what is this? Blood? Bleeding?
Throw me! Throw me! He took his shield and he thrust it at the man!
The shield landed and cleaved the man's skull! Lopped off his head! and a flock of ravens descended and plucked out his eyes.
Show off!
Shield! Sword! Perhaps if my tears can fix you in your dire state, perhaps they can fix this musician as well. And so, the knight thought of the day he was born and how his mother sneered at his face.
Ew, you are so gross and disgusting, boy. I'll never consider you my son. You have no manhood.
And as the tears splashed upon the musician, his heart began to beat again. Thank you, my lord. I am twice and forever yours.
Thank you. Come, all of you, enter the carriage. We must go and face my mother. My lord.
Meanwhile, back at the temporary castle that she was stranded in when her idiot son lost the carriage, the queen, really the witch, waited with bated anticipation.
I cannot wait to return home, for my mother has been stuck in this narrow castle for so long when she talks of a magical place that we can return to.
Oh, that sounds so wonderful. I cannot wait to see this magical place.
I can live forever there.
And turning over the hourglass, she continued to wait.
He kicked open the door, took his sword and his shield, and he walked up to his mother. Mama, I'm home and I have my manhood.
Not quite sure what she was hearing, she very slowly turned around.
As soon as she turned around, the beautiful sword could recognize the true evil of the witch that lay beneath the queen, and the sword glowed and quivered with power and anger.
The shield, too, shone in all its splendor and showed the witch her own evil self in its reflection.
My lord, do you not look at your shield? Do you not see what she is? She is the witch who turned us into beasts.
It is her.
Why the boy looked down, and no drop of urine dripped from him.
Thank God!
No vomit dripped from his lips.
Amen!
And his eyes remained dry.
And as the witch saw her ugly reflection in the shield and the lack of urine on the ground, she knew that manhood had come back, and she melted in dryness.
Until the tuba player emptied the saliva from her tuba.
And the boy found the urge to urinate.
I must have been very evil.
Come all, we must enter the carriage, and we must ride to the magical land beyond the wild, wild world.
Where you shall be king.
Yes.
Back into the carriage they went.
And they rode off into the sunset to the magical land. The end.
My good friends, the brothers Grimm, as you know, they did not write their stories the way authors sit at desks and write stories. No, they traveled out to the people, to the folk, where they collected stories that had been told from generation to generation. And each time one old woman would tell that story to her young son, and that son would grow up and tell that story to his young daughter, each time the story was passed down, it would deepen and deepen for benefiting from the collective unconscious of the storytellers, the human race. You are part of the human race, and yes, you are. And you too can tap into that collective unconscious. And so together we shall tell a story where you shall help by offering your collective unconscious. Whenever I pause in the story, I need somebody to shout out a word or a suggestion or a phrase, and that is what will happen next in the story. So you'll need to call out, and we need to practice. Don't be shy. Here we go, just for practice. There was once a octopus. Excellent job. This octopus had a special power. Yes? No? There. That's the way it works. All throughout the story, whenever I pause, shout out a suggestion for me. Hard by a forest, there stood an old tree. And beneath that tree, there lived a
Gargoyle.
A gargoyle. The gargoyle's name was Hugo. Bob. Bob had a hideous face, giant, scaly wings, and out of his head there grew a large spatula. He guarded this tree jealously, because growing from the limbs of this tree was a magical pancake. But not just a regular pancake, it was a watermelon pancake. The only one of its kind. Well, each day from dawn till dusk, Bob the gargoyle sat and guarded this watermelon pancake. One day, a young giant dragon approached the gargoyle, and the dragon said, "Waka waka," which meant,
Give me a fruit.
"Hello, I'm hungry. Where's the syrup?" Well, Bob knew that his watermelon pancake was being threatened, so at once he raised his wings to the full 6-foot wingspan, and he cried out,
Spit out the cheese!
"Spit out the cheese!" The young dragon was shocked that Bob knew he was holding cheese in his mouth. But, being called upon it, he did in fact spit out the cheese. It was vodka cheese. Cheddar cheese vodka. When the cheddar cheese vodka hit the ground, it turned into a
Watermelon seed.
watermelon seed. And from that watermelon seed, there grew a
Coconut tree.
a tree. The tree grew as tall as a dragon and a stack of pancakes. And thus the battlefield had been chosen. Bob flew to the top of the tree. The dragon flew to the top of the tree. Bob, as his only weapon, had a pancake. But the dragon had Aunt Jemima. And Aunt Jemima took no guff from no one. So Aunt Jemima pulled out her fork and stuck Bob the gargoyle right in the bacon. As soon as the gargoyle was stuck in his bacon. It withered until it turned into a pile of
Pancake cottage cheese.
Sure, why not? And now that the dragon was victorious, the curse upon the dragon was broken, and it turned from its hideous dragon form into its true form of a
Queen.
of Aunt Jemima's cousin, Mrs. Butterworth. And the two of them ran off to open up an IHOP, where they lived happily ever after.
Everest and the three goblins. The wife of a rich man fell sick, and as she felt that her end was drawing near, she called her only daughter to her bedside and said, "Take that gum out of your mouth!" Thereupon she closed her eyes and died.
Mother! Are you there? Oh! And the young girl took the gum out of her mouth and made a pair of shoes out of them.
Just then, the girl's father entered.
Father,
You were chewing gum, weren't you?
I was making shoes.
Well, you've finally done it.
I did it. I'm afraid so.
Well, I hope you're happy, and I hope those shoes are comfortable, because you are no longer allowed to live here.
Oh, Father, you're not banishing me, are you?
I am. You're banished.
To the dark forest, where there are evil mushrooms? No!
I wasn't going to suggest a place, but if that's where you want to go, then that's where you shall go.
Oh.
And good luck walking with your sticky, disgusting feet.
Oh. And so, the girl, slowly, step by step, with her shoes, left the home and made her way to the scary place.
Within this scary place, there were 3 goblins.
Oh!
3 nude goblins.
She carries clothing.
Oh. This smells of mint. Ooh. You shall make a beautiful bride for the king of the goblins.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
Grasp her, grasp her.
Oh no, but she couldn't run. Her feet were stuck.
Tortoise.
Her feet are stuck to the ground. This is quite easy, brother.
Yes. Grasp her.
Please, no.
And so they took the young maiden down to the tunnels of the goblins within the scary forest.
Sitting on a mighty throne, naked as the day he was born, was the Goblin King.
King Everest.
King Everest.
King Everest, we bring you a woman.
Ah.
Clothing.
And it smells of mint, my lord. May I lick it?
You are permitted one lick.
Ah.
All I've ever wanted since I was born was to get an article of clothing. Thank you, my children, for bringing me this creature. You there, you shall be my slave to make me clothing.
I only know how to make clothing out of one thing.
The goblin blew a bubble from the gum that he was chewing.
Oh,
What is that?
it is the very gum you are chewing.
Oh, he spit the gum from his lips in surprise.
This gum is magical. It is stronger and more sinuous than any gum I have ever seen. From this, I could make many garments. And then you would release me, right?
Yes, if you are to clothe my 3 goblins and then myself, then you shall be set free.
But we have very particular tastes in our garments, and if you do not pick the right ones for each of us, you shall remain the bride of our king.
She was afraid because it wasn't just his head that was shaking.
And so the 3 goblins exited the chamber of the king to their own individual chambers in the tunnels.
The young girl was told to visit each goblin individually to take measurements and then create a garment for each of their liking. She walked slowly to the first chamber. Hello, goblin.
Hi.
I'm here to make a garment for you.
Yes.
The first goblin had many, many masks hanging from his wall. Why, it was his favorite thing to have the heads of animals.
You
Goblin,
could almost hear them crying.
Do you see my many trophies? These animals ventured into the enchanted forest, dined on the evil mushrooms, and now they adorn the walls of my hovel.
The girl began to imagine her head upon the wall. Oh, goblin, I'm here to make your garment.
Yeah.
I have chewed this gum very well. Which garment do you prefer?
I do not know.
Oh,
I have never worn a garment.
may I suggest something?
Sure.
May I suggest a simple thong?
Yes.
Why, let me fashion one for you now. Okay then, shall roll the ends a bit. Place this. Oh!
It's a mask.
Well, so it is. And you look lovely.
I have always wanted a mask of my own. It is why I steal the faces of all the animals. Thank you. You have made me so happy.
You are welcome, goblin.
With that, the first goblin loved her as a creator of his favorite thing.
Now she was stuck to him as well. The one shoe of gum adhered to his thigh. Oh, goblin.